Welcome back. Panelists here. NBC News Chief Washington Correspondent Andrea Mitchell, NBC News Senior Capitol Hill Correspondent Garrett Hake, Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan, and Kimberly Atkins-Storr, Senior Opinion Writer for the Boston Globe. I want to start with Susan Collins and what she put out. Throwing out a precedent overnight that the country has relied upon for a half a century is not conservative. It is sudden and a radical jolt to the country that will lead to political chaos, anger, and a further loss of confidence in our government. John Roberts used judicial restraint, Peggy. I'm curious of what happened to small c conservatism and judicial restraint here.
Well, another way, I understand what Susan Collins said, but another way to view this is a long 50-year struggle that observed all processes and appealed to the public and tried to get support and played the long game and did its very best, has suddenly, it seems, but after 50 years, succeeded in the court, and the end result of that is that a big, huge, dramatic question will not be settled by the court, as it were, as it had been 49 years ago, but will actually go back to the people of the country who, state by state, will decide through their legislators and representatives what their local abortion law will be. I do not see this big decision as a settlement of this question, but I do think it has put forward a legitimate and, to me, desirable democratic settlement, and it'll be turbulent for the next few years. It just will.
Kimberly, what was interesting, she talked about the long 50-year campaign on the right to get this done. One thing the campaign never succeeded at doing was changing public opinion.
No. Public opinion has changed here, and that's what is remarkable at how the conservative bent, the fast change of this Supreme Court that was done by design, by pure construction, has gone so far against public opinion. I personally don't believe that people's civil rights and constitutional rights should be up to public approval, but the fact that it is going so far against it speaks to that. And my quibble with what Peggy has said here is that it's interesting that the court picks and chooses when they take this democratic route. They didn't do so with the Second Amendment. They opposed their will on even states that wanted to put better protections there. But on this issue, they're deciding to, and it's not, this goes so far beyond abortion. And abortion is important, and reproductive health care is important because it touches that. But this is getting to the very heart of the 14th Amendment of what protects all of the vulnerable people in this country. And what they are saying is, unless you have a long history of having this country respect and protect those rights, then you may be out of luck when we have the cases in the future. And as a black woman in America, that's terrifying.
You know, Andrea, I've actually talked to some legal experts building off what Kimberly said, that said eventually, if this gets back to the Supreme Court, it may be under an equal protection a standard because of, look at what we're going to see around the country. Women are not going to have the same equal rights depending on the state they live in.
Well, this is contributing to the balkanization of our country. Our country is now going to be so divided, just legally divided. Half the states are not going to permit abortion. And that is going to prohibit abortion from those who cannot travel. And immediately, there are people in Arkansas and Mississippi who are going to have to go 1,000 miles. That is absolutely, to Illinois. I was talking to several people in those states yesterday as we were anchoring on this very subject. And they can't travel 1,000 miles. They don't have the money. They don't have the money for daycare. They don't have the ability to get there for all of the pre-testing that you're supposed to have and for the follow-up exams. And what is so remarkable is that when Roe was decided, and I'm, old enough, to have lived as an adult pre-Roe, and I know what the situation was, and actually public opinion has not really changed over these 49 and a half years. What's happened is that the court has changed. You now have a supermajority where the Chief Justice does not even have sway, and has not for the last year and a half or so, because of this supermajority, who is basically ignoring public opinion. And they're not supposed to be political because they're going their own way, a supermajority that can do things, whatever they choose to do. Roe was decided 7-2 in an opinion by Justice Blackmun, a Republican, supported by Chief Justice Berger, a Republican, during the years of Richard Nixon. And it was decided, on a basis of what they interpreted. Now, it has been questioned because they chose privacy, not equal protection. But what you're now going to see is more of this red-blue state division and on a powerfully emotional issue.
Garrett, bring me to Congress. When Roe was decided in 1973, the two parties were equally divided on abortion. There were a lot of pro-life Democrats. I mean, and look, a lot of people have noted one time Donald Trump was pro-choice, one time Joe Biden was pro-life, right? I mean, we've been through this. George H.W. Bush, the Bush family, donors to Planned Parenthood back in the day. Is there going to, if this new Republican majority comes in the House, is there going to be an abortion ban?
Kevin McCarthy certainly left that option on the table, suggesting that he would put forward or would support a 15-week abortion ban if one came up in the House, as I suspect one probably will, especially if the majority is big enough in the House. I mean, ironically, this has been Kyrsten Sinema's position on not getting rid of the filibuster, that this vote will come up, and that the filibuster may be the only protection that Democrats have left, either in 2 years from now or potentially in 4 years from now under a Republican president, to prevent a national abortion standard. Now, conservatives have made the argument that they want this to be decided at the state level. But I think Democrats, as you just heard from Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, read the writing on the wall here. You can say one thing, whether it's in a confirmation hearing or what have you, but Republican, everything they have done suggests they want to see this ban at a national level. And, to your point about the parties being balkanized on this, you're not winning a Republican primary for a state house seat in Missouri or Texas or a state like that unless you believe in, abortion ban with no exceptions. That's the direction that party's going, and Democrats have to be prepared for it.
Peggy, politically, during the era of Roe, it was the Democrats that would be infighting over where do you draw the line, late-term abortions. Republicans did a great job of wedging. And now, all of a sudden, it's the Republicans that are going to have to because some are going to want exceptions. Governor Hutchinson talked about it, but Garrett brought up a point. Is that going to survive primaries?
Well, this is going to work its way out. I would say everybody here, I think, agrees that when polled, the American people say they're for Roe. They're for the right of abortion as seen in the Constitution. But the minute you get beyond that to questions of the cutoff, is it 12 weeks or 14? Then support goes down. It all becomes more complicated. The fact was, I think, legally, Roe and Casey just were sort of incompatible with getting all of those reservations worked out in the law. So I think that is part of what drove it. Look, you know what the Republican Party should do now? It should use this victory, if you see it that way, to change itself and become a party that helps women, change its reputation, become a party that helps women and children, becomes responsible and supportive.
We are here because Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell got together and made a litmus test for overturning Roe for Supreme Court nominees. Sandra Day O'Connor did not have that litmus test. David Souter didn't have it. Anthony Kennedy didn't have it. That is why we are here, is because Republicans from the top set the tone.
And Merrick Garland did not even get a hearing.
100%.
Here's the good news. I'm going to give you guys more time. It's just not right now. It'll be later in the show. When we come back, the story that in any other week would have led our show and dominated the news, the riveting testimony about former President Trump's schemes to stay in power. Congressman Adam Schiff joins me next.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.